there's gonna be a lot of sound in this video because due to unforeseen circumstances, everything is happening now. That's fine. At least I remembered. Oh, god damn it. Happy end of May! It's time for book 5, The Pretty Committee Strikes Back. This one was a slog because part of the plot revolves around periods, and I have a lot of anxiety around that. I don't know why. I mean, I do know why. It's society. But, so, let's read the back of the book. I don't have any big sweeping queering theories to go along with this one. I think, you know, as I go through these next year, I will write the video essay about queering in this context, but as for right now, it is simply just more info. Alright. The Clique Gone Wild. Massey Block. Why? The girls of Octavian Country Day pack up their warmest cashmere coats and their tiniest iPods and board the bus for President's Day class trip to Lake Placid. But bears aren't the only scary thing out in these woods. The Briarwood boys are staying in a cabin just a few yards away, which means the girls in Massey's underground clinic for kissing, Muck, might have to find the guts to put their money where their well-glossed mouths are. Christian Gregory. Can't afford to go on the trip. Will she rot in Westchester all alone? Not likely. Dylan Marvel. Finally skinny after a bad bout of the flu, will stay skinny when she sees her mom smooching it up with her history teacher, because that's enough to make anyone yak. Alicia Rivera. Knows her crush Joss Holtz has his eye on someone. But who? Alicia's the hottest girl at OCD, so he must like her, right? Claire Lyons. Gets a crazy haircut and a bloodthirsty new enemy. But none of this matters since Cam has taken his heart and his gummies away from her. She'll do whatever it takes to get him back. So this one came out, let's see, this actually will tell me better than, yeah, this one came out in March of 2006. What do I even say? I feel like this book held me captive while reading it. The Pretty Committee Strikes Back, Book 5. Thanks so much. Okay. So, it's like the Wednesday before, which their teacher, Mr. Mignard, is collecting their funds for these trips. Kristen, everyone is going to the Lake Placid trip except for Christian, because Christian can afford to. During this class, Mr. Maynard, I'm going to pronounce it Mr. Maynard. It's spelled M-Y-N-E-R, and I'm going to pronounce it that way the entire time, and I apologize if I don't, because that's not how it's pronounced. I'm not a linguist, and that is a white man's name, and you can't make me care. All Massey can think about is Darrington, because she gave him the M pen at the end of the last book, and are they dating? Are they gonna go? Are you powered? There you go. There you go, hooker. I've returned to using the tabs. Oh my god. Okay, so all she can think about is Darrington. She has this list. 5 things about my crush that makes it impossible for me to eat. So Massey hasn't really been eating a lot, which is concerning. Just a little bit. A growing girl needs her foods. His adorable, shaggy, dirty blonde hair. Love, love, love when it falls in his brown eyes. The way he wiggles his butt after he saves a goal in soccer. Adorable. He's the most popular 7th grader at Briarwood, and he likes me. I IM'd me on Monday and said I was the cutest girl at OCD. Take that, Alicia Riviera. We'll be spending 3 days and 2 nights together in Lake Placid. Oh my god. All she's doing is fantasizing about Darrington. She calls him... She calls the rest of the girls, the rest of the pretty committee, together for a packing meeting on Sunday, right before the trip. The trip is on Monday. The last day to pay is on Friday. Today is Wednesday or so. And we kind of pick up where we left off in the last book. We have Olivia, who is back from her special trip. It was, in fact, a second nose job. Dylan needs to go shopping because she lost weight due to the flu, and Claire needs to go shopping for underwear. Kirsten can't come to the on the trip because it's $1,500, and that is too much. They all agree to chip in to pay, but Massey then says something mean, and Kirsten starts to feel a little crummy. She doesn't like being the friend that everyone feels they have to take care of and baby, but they do. Dylan, need to shop. Went down a few sizes since the flu. Massey, shopping sounds great. Claire, in. Kirsten, Massey says. Kirsten, my parents still say the $1,500 fee is too much. Won't pay. I hate them. Kirsten's always had money issues, but it's a major bummer. Massey, even Claire's parents are paying. It's educational. Claire lifted her head and shot Massey a thanks a lot smirk. Massey shrugged innocently and returned to her vibrating phone. Alicia, I'll pay for you. Dylan, me too. Kirsten's face lights up. Massey, me 3. What's one more time? Massey hit send and lifted her head to nod at whatever Mr. Minor was saying, just in case he was getting suspicious. But he was too caught up in his lecture about shifting glaciers, mighty rivers, and dense pine forests to care about the only part of nature that really mattered, the birds and the bees. A little fun fact I learned from TikTok is that there's like this area at a 4 Points area in the baby Midwest called the shift list, where there is no when glaciers were moving past and carving up the Appalachian Trail and all the the mighty lakes, they didn't get to this one area in all the millions of years. Well, as far as we've been able to identify in all the millions of years, it never moved there. And I think that's beautiful. I think that's interesting. Okay. Kirsten, forget about it. I'm not going. Everyone's confused. Claire goes, yeah. Massey's just like, oh, God. Massey felt a sudden wave of hunger-related nausea whoosh through her entire body. She lowered her arm into her black Prada messenger bag and quietly pinched off a piece of the half-eaten nuts-over chocolate Luna bar. That's her newest thing, is eating Luna bars. Alicia then pivots to it wouldn't be so much if Claire's middle class. Okay, yeah, I like that line still. That's fine. Massey says something mean and starts to feel bad about it. And Kristen doesn't like being their charity. Alicia then kind of pivots into it wouldn't be so much. But Claire can't chip in. And it's it's not Claire's fault that she's middle class and the rest of y'all are buku bucks stupid rich. Yeah, I had no idea you guys were sick of me borrowing money. Alicia nervously twirled her thick black hair into a singong and dabbed a bit of pink gloss onto her full mouth. We're so not. Alicia tried to sound sincere, but her voice was flat and unconvincing. Just let us pay, Dylan said. If we split it 4 ways, then Alicia cleared her throat and tilted her head towards Claire. I mean, if we split it 3 ways, we could totally afford it, Dylan corrected herself. Claire brought her thumb to her teeth and bit down. Seriously, Massey rested her hand on the back of Kirsten's hot pink and white Puma track jacket. What's the big deal? Kirsten wiggled out from underneath Massey's gentle grip. Because I don't want you guys to think I'm some pathetic charity case. Massey sighed. We don't have time for this. Not when Darrington is waiting for her to respond to his text message. Maybe a little humor would lighten Kirsten's mood. You're not some charity case. You're our charity case. We adore you. Kirsten's mouth fell open and tears started rolling down her flushed cheeks. Alicia glares at Massey. So, pissed. She's going to be doing some tutoring. She gets a little vibrity beep, and it's Darrington. Lake Placid's gonna rule. Massey's still playing hard to get with Darrington. So he's, does he know that she's really into him? But she doesn't know. Kirsten decides that she's gonna try and raise the money in 3 days somehow. But she's going to tutor some girls in this memorization class that she took, and she's gonna help them study. So we come to our big crux of the story as Massey's waiting for Isaac to come pick her up. While she's sitting outside with the pretty committee waiting to go to the mall. These lower tier girls show up, and they're looking for kissing advice, and they wander up to Alicia to ask for Nina's email address so that they can ask her personally about how best to get their kiss on. Not Massey. A white Lexus and 2 black Audis pulled into the lot. Libby Collins, Alexandra Reagan, and Carrie Randolph waved to the drivers as they strolled down the school steps, taking their time so that they could finish their conversation. I know Nina was a total fake. Alexandra buttoned up her winter white Banana Republic boiled wool coat. But how great would it have been to have her on a Lake Placid trip? Totally agree, slurred Carrie, the notorious fast talker. No one knows more about guys. Suddenly Massey felt dizzy. It was one thing to hear her classmates idolize Nina Callis, Alicia's Spanish slutbag of a cousin who was responsible for almost tearing Massey and Darrington apart, but it was quite another for them to consider her an expert in anything other than lying, stealing, and cheesy Euro styles. Besides, Massey had assumed that when Nina returned to Spain, things would go back to normal, and she would become the all-around expert again. So why wasn't that happening? She lowered herself onto the stone steps. Alicia and Dylan and Claire sat down beside her. Maybe we can get her email address from Alicia. Livy bit down on her plump bottom lip and chewed off the clear gloss. I bet she could give us some killer tips. Love that. Carrie clapped her lambskin mittens together. Hey, look, there she is. Nina? Livy and Alexandra shrieked at the same time. No, Alicia. Carrie stomped her foot, pulled her friends by their coats, and dragged them down the steps. The well-coiffed woman inside the white Lexus honked the horn. Hold up a minute, Mom. Carrie stomped her foot and held up her index finger. The 2 black Audis beeped next. Alexandra and Livy held up their fingers the same way Carrie had. I'm going to lose a fingernail. What? Massey rose to her feet. Alicia and Claire immediately did the same. We actually wanted to ask Alicia something. Carrie seemed to be speaking to Massey's burnt orange suede Michael Kors non-waterproof snow boots. Well, if it has to do with her trashy cousin Nina, don't bother. She's dead to us. We just want her email address, Livy stepped in. The blonde ballet dancer / basketball player was the thinnest and tallest one in the group, but Massey refused to look up at her. Instead, she spoke to the scratched rhinestone buttons on her tacky wannabe antique coat. Dylan burst out laughing. Stupid much? Like they have email in Spain. Carrie and Alexandra and Livy seemed to believe Dylan, because they all turned red and looked away. It was perfect timing for Massey to pounce. Look, I know the only reason you want to speak to that slutter Rita is to get great guy advice before the trip. Massey softened her voice so she'd sound sweet and caring. The girls lifted their head, and Massey stepped down and joined them on their level. Am I right? Yeah. I totally understand. Massey patted Liddy's shoulder. That's why I'm offering secret kissing clinic before the trip. Excuse me. She waved her hand behind her back so Claire, Dylan, and Alicia wouldn't question her. One of the black Audis honked. 1 minute, Ma! Alexandra shouted. Then she leaned in towards Massey and whispered, "What's kissing like? Tell me everything. Don't leave one thing out." It's hard to describe. Massey spoke louder than she needed to. Darrington and I have been making out for a while now, since the holidays to be exact. She elbowed Alexandria in the ribs and winked. Thank God for mistletoe, if you know what I mean. Claire cracked up. Massey waved at her again. Doug, who do you think taught Nina how to kiss? Claire chimed in. Massey was grateful for the backup. What? Alicia screeched. That was too loud. That's gonna get me a discussion. I look good. I look really good here. This is why I don't have any good selfies, because I stay taking a mirror selfie like it's a good idea. Do you like to eat dick? You dumb bitch. I'm the dumb bitch, by the way. And I do like to eat dick. Dick is a good part of any video. Is that true? Massey heard Dylan whisper. Massey stepped in front of her friends, blocking them from the conversation. I have a few spaces left in my kissing clinic if you want to sign up, Massey offered. But you can't tell a soul. I've already had to turn a lot of people away because it wouldn't be fair. We won't tell. Claire squinted and shook her head, her saucer-shaped brown eyes barely open. We won't tell. We did it, Joel. Swear. Livy made an invisible cross on her tacky coat to prove her secrecy. Double swear. Alexandra crossed her boiled wool twice. This is going to be so great. So, she ends up charging the girls like $20. $20 per person, cash only. And she's got to think about it because let us not forget that Massey has not actually kissed Darrington yet. So once those girls walk away, Alicia is like, when did you become a kissing expert? Excuse, when did you tell us? And she, instead of just being like, I was just trying to shiesty these girls for Kirsten, she just kind of looks at Claire, because Claire knows the truth, and it's just like, you know, it happened. I'm sorry. You know, there's a lot. I don't like to kiss and tell. So Alicia and Dylan are like, oh my God, let us take your kissing count as well. And you know what? Cash is cash. So she gets it. And also Claire joins in and is just like, sure, whatever. 'Cause Claire helps the lie. Massey was pleased her friends were willing to play along. Claire was the only one who knew the truth about Massey's lack of experience with boys and was smart enough to know that Massey wanted to keep it secret. It's okay, Massey continued her Oscar-worthy performance, but if you must know, Darrington and I have been getting pretty busy these days. No way. Alicia slaps Massey's arm. It's true, Claire jumps in. I walked in on them back when Massey and I were sharing a bedroom. They were in a full-on lip lock. Massey shrugged and looked away, brushing her cheek against her shoulder. She turned. She wanted to look sweet in spite of her new racy reputation. Can we take your clinic too? Alicia asked. I played spin the bottle a few times in Spain, but those kisses were closed mouth. And I'm so beyond ready to go open. No, you don't. So, Alicia's, back on her Josh Holt bullshit. And, she is blissfully unaware that Josh kissed Claire at the end of the last book. and thus is kind of emotionally unavailable for kissing her. Turns out, in a trend of surprising mothers, Kendra is the one who picks up the girls from school today because Isaac has a broken tooth. So the next day at school, Claire's hanging out with... So the next day after school, Claire's hanging out with Lainey. I hate Lainey. Straight up. I don't like her in this book. I find her to be quite counterproductive in the friendship department as far as being... She goes from being a good juxtaposition of the pretty committee's like jealousy and backstabbing to just kind of being selfish and a little like insufferable. I'm gonna say it. I do not like her. I do not like her character in the first half of this book. I found her to be a poor friend. Just like her actions are kind of reprehensible. Like, I feel like maybe they'd have wide-reaching implications later on, but this is just like the opening chapter and it left a bad taste in my mouth to the point of me rooting against her. She really doesn't have anything to root for, but it's still agitating with her existence. So now Claire's back in her own room. It was all redesigned, all on the block's dime, by the way. So that she wouldn't be staying in a room that was meant for the now deceased grandmother of Massey. I'm sorry, Megan, can you put this around where I talk about Lane? Claire chuckled and was suddenly overcome by a rush of warm appreciation for Lane, her special friend, the one she could let her guard down with, shop at Target with, eat sugar and fat with. Lainey was not part of the pretty committee and probably never would be, and that was more than fine with Claire. It was nice having a friend who saw Westchester the same way she did, through the eyes of a coat check girl at the black tie affair. But that's the thing about Lane, is Lainey isn't actually poor. She's not even, like, middle class. She's rich. She's just weird. And, like, little girls are weird sometimes. But, like, Claire is someone who's kind of moonshotting, you know, the idea of being in the environment, rubbing shoulders with all of this. And Lane has all that and rejects it. Lane is more like Grimes than Claire is to being Kelly Clarkson. Like, you see, it's a, you know, her dad's rich. She's got a horse. Also, that quote just screams millennial girl to me, just being like, I just want to ride my horse. I just want to eat fats and go shop at Target. Touch my butt and feed me pizza. Starbies! And I am a basic bitch, but like, and this is probably a fresh idea in 2006, but in 2022, they're just gonna... So, now that her life is improving, she's still a little sad because all she can think about, all she can think about is Cam. She's even still playing the last mixtape he gave her, which was Christmas. She misses him so bad. Oh my god, where are you going? Rebecca, no! At this point, Lainey doesn't know that Cam... All she knows is that she's not talking to Cam, but that she doesn't know that he broke up with her. Okay, I know what I'm trying to say. Okay, so what Lacey Harrelson excels best at is showing the changes that are happening to Claire. Not only in the section with the Target and her friend, which I already kind of debunked a little bit, don't super love that characterization, but there's also one about Claire herself introspectively and how she's changed. A stack of pillows on the floor by the window. Ina's, the block's live-in housekeeper, had made them from Claire's old t-shirts from Orlando. It was either that or Massey was going to use them to pull poo berries off of her dog Bean's butt, and Claire had given in. She had lived in Westchester for 6 months, which was long enough to know that the right time to wear an oversized Lisa Simpson tee would never, ever present itself. So they're turned into pillows, something that can be seen but not used. They're still a comfort item, but not the way they used to be. So as Claire's sitting there sulking, she tells Lainey that Cam and her broke up. And Lainey's like, well, you know, instead of being like, you know, boys are stupid, it was just like, well, it must be because you lost some of your Florida charm. You've changed. Lane lifted her head. Why? She ran her fingers through her teased brown hair. Is it because I'm using glue on your new bedspread? Which, I'd beat her ass. Huh? Claire crinkled her pale eyebrows. Then she shook her head and exhaled sharply. Claire wanted to tell Lane the truth, but what if she didn't understand? Or worse, she sided with Cam. He said he lost interest, Claire murmured to her cuticles. He didn't want to be tied down. Cam Fisher said that, Lainey asked. About you? I got it. Lainey jumped to her feet, refastened her cords, and lifted her index finger to the air. She started pacing back and forth. Maybe he misses the old you. Her green eyes flickered. You know, the girl he first fell in love with? Huh? Claire wished she had the guts to tell Lane the truth. We have to get you back to the old Claire, the one Cam first noticed. What old Claire? Claire BPC, Lainey said with a proud smile, like she had just said something brilliantly clever. Claire stared at her blankly. Before the pretty committee. Claire's industrial-looking full-length mirror across from. See yourself? Claire pushed herself up and stood in front of the mirror with her hands on her narrow waist. You've lost your Florida charm. Your cute Disney bangs have grown out. You've traded in your cherry chapstick for lip gloss, and you wear boot-cut jeans instead of overalls, Lainey said. You're not the girl Cam first fell in love with. That's super unhealthy, and I hate it here. Like, I want to beat this girl's ass. Like, maybe, but also, ew, don't say that to your friends if you're actually friends with them. And then Lainey attacks her bangs. She gives her an unconsensual haircut by chasing her around the room and then cuts part of the bang and everything's going well. And then Todd with his robo-dog rolls in and this startles them, so she janks the cut. So now she has really janky bangs. They're crooked and I'm just like, that's assault. They all have a good laugh about it, but no, I hate how that made me feel. It made me very uncomfortable. It's well written. The execution on the writing, great. I viscerally felt uncomfortable that someone gave her an unconsensual haircut. So that assault happens, and they all have a good laugh about it, but her bangs are crooked, and that just agitates me to no end. I hated this section. I hate how it made me feel. It's well written and executed, and how visceral it is, but I hate it. Todd has a robo-dog. Claire gets an IM from Massey and letting her know that she cannot let Alicia know that she kissed Josh. And that Josh might like her. That Alicia just keeps asking about it and everyone's just like, oh. But it's also true. She wants to know if he likes her or not. So Massey's reading over Claire's shoulder and she sees that and is like, ugh. It's like, oh, so you're a little hoe bag and that's why he broke up with you. Which I think is inappropriate. Don't slut shame your friends, girls. It's a bad look. I mean, if your friend is doing hoe behavior and you think it's unhealthy, maybe a little bit of slut shaming. If only because, you know, sometimes telling your friend that maybe they're being gross can come off like slut shaming, but don't actually slut shame anyone. Okay, yeah, and then she has the nerve to say this. I hate Lainey. You kissed Josh Holtz? Lainey dove onto the comforter and rolled around until she had undone all of Claire's tidying. Why didn't you tell me? When did you become such a big slut burger? I'd beat her ass. I'm sorry. That's how Lainey finds out. The two of them decide that they're going to exchange embarrassing secrets. So Claire explains how the cheating happened. Lainey explains that she got her period for the first time last month. Claire writes a poem. for Cam that I don't think is good enough to read. I hate poetry. Okay, so now it's tomorrow. It's Friday, and Claire and Massey's getting ready to do her kissing camp for the Muck girls. She's hiding. There is an unscrupulous description of what her thong is doing, and it's just like, Lacey, can we level about like how you talk about your child protagonist's body and her clothing? I just don't super love it, and it feels a little Facebook fettuccine for me. A little like you made this for someone else, not teenage girls. It's giving preteen YouTuber content. It's giving child tumbling compilations, you know? I don't love that. Could do without that. Massey is hiding from Principal Burns to do her little workshop after school, but she kind of secretly hopes she gets caught so she doesn't have to continue to do it. Along with Livy, Alexandria, and Carrie, Claire and Lane, Dylan and Kirsten, and Alicia, and Olivia are also there. Massey is kind of under the assumption that she's kind of holding power over Claire by not telling Alicia that she kissed the boy that she likes. But in reality, Claire's just kind of along for the ride because she likes Massey. She's, friendly with her. Massey called the hairstylist that she uses Jacob to even out Claire's bangs before they head out. Then they get about a couple of girls to come out, so they make about $100. $100 and something worth of money. Then they talk about how Massey talks about how the Briarwood boys refer to them, specifically Alicia and Olivia. Briarwood boys referred to them as the 20 since they were both 10s. Massey hated that nickname almost as much as she hated not being included in it. Would changing their name to the 30 be so inconceivable? Massey begins her seminar, which is recorded for her blog, which is to be recorded to be put on her blog later. She gets money from Claire, Alicia, and Dylan, so she made $160. Massey's Underground Clinic for Kissing, page 44. Massey gives the money to Kirsten to pay for her, hopefully for her trip. Let me start by welcoming you to Muck, or Massey's Underground Clinic for Kissing. She plugged her mini DVD player into the wall socket and pulled a shiny disc out of her light pink plastic sleeve. Oh my god, you know what Muck sounds like? Olivia snickered into her delicate palm. Yeah? Massey snapped. It should have gone without saying. Love that name, Clarion said to Livy and Alexandra, who were seated on either side of her. Me too, Alexandra gushed. It's so naughty. Do you ever have that moment, like, in The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, there's this bit where they're superheroes, and Cody pops up and he's like, I'm Brain Boy, and then Zack goes, really? BB? And then Cody like covers his chest and runs away, and it's like, I never got what he was supposed to be embarrassed about, and I could really use some help trying to figure that out. I'm too dumb, head too empty. So Claire gives out, bless Olivia's dumb heart, she just does not get things. It goes right over her head. Massey passes out some rejected Glossip Girl glosses. Massey dictates where to start and how she could, how they should be making sure that they start with oral. There's a dick joke in there, there's an oral sex joke in there. All Massey turned on the small screen on her portable DVD player, so it faced the girls, slid in the CD, then pressed play. A slow montage of sexy photos that Massey had cut out of magazines and coffee table books around her house and scanned into her computer flashed onto the screen. One after the other, they appeared and faded in perfect time to the dreamy beat of Caribbean Blue by Enya, one of Kendra's favorite New Age artists. Massey knew the girls would have no idea what they were listening to and hoped the haunting Irish music would cast an air of romance and mystery over her presentation. All I can think about it when I hear Enya is the Game Grumps bit with Return to Nature. Alexandra sighed. This is like porno. Are we gonna get in trouble? Livy asked as she chewed her lip. It's like, it's giving repressed boomer teens seeing Elvis for the first time and literally shaking and convulsing and orgasming to death at those concerts. It's kind of intense. I just love the idea that it's essentially like a super cut of perfume ads with Enya playing under them, just to like seduce. Oh my god, are you trying to seduce me, Miss Block? One of the girls, Carrie, wants to know about French kissing and, you know, other types of kissing, tongue kissing. The girls want to know about kissing with braces, and, you know, Alicia and Dylan are like, I want to know what my best friend was doing with Darrington since she didn't want to tell us. But, you know, Massey is the master of persuasion and dissuasion. So she moves through it deftly. Massey insists that everyone should be focusing on phase 1, which is oral health, which she's correct. Don't kiss people with a stanky mouth, which is dental hygiene, oral hygiene. Stupid little bit on page 50. Massey looked to Claire, but Claire was too busy tugging on her uneven banks to pick up Massey's silent plea. We will get to all of that, but first it's important to learn the fundamentals, Massey said. Like straight up lick pecks and open mouthers, Alexandria offered. No, like oral hygiene. Massey lifted her Louis Vuitton duffel bag off the ground and unzipped it. Ew, Olivia squealed. Wait, isn't that like third base? Seriously, Livy turned red. We haven't even talked about Frenching yet. And we're already moving on to oral? Oral hygiene! You idiot, not oral sex. Which, you know, just a silly little bit. You know, kids being kids. It's a little hornier than I'd like, but it's kids being kids. Hey, Alexandra, are you a toad? No, why? Then why you acting all horny? Like, Massey comes with the one-liners. You gotta give it. They discuss mustache maintenance, and Dylan and Alicia keep wondering, when did she kiss what's-his-face and not tell us? They want to know when her first kiss with Darrington was, and they didn't talk about it. Massey panics because she hasn't kissed Darrington yet, duh. So she pulls out her phone and fakes a phone call that Principal Burns is coming, and everyone must scatter. It was obvious to Massey that the girls had been less than pleased with their first lesson. And that certainly did not need to be advertised on a video blog. So she went back to her old system of recording State of the Union. Okay, hold it. Massey blocks current State of the Union. In, earth tones, field trips with boys, making out. Out, ringtones, field hockey with girls, and chickening out. So it's Sunday afternoon. The money is due, and Kirsten did not get it all together in time. So she's not going on the trip. Claire is getting ready to enter the iPad with Massey's all-white bedroom to go and pack for the trip with the rest of the girls. This chapter is mostly about fashion and what they are going to wear. Mind you, this is a camping trip, And they're talking about heels and cashmere sweaters and what cute little sexy things they're gonna wear. Dylan, who has lost 10 pounds from the flu. We're gonna loop back to Dylan losing 10 pounds because Lord help her. Hey! Dylan yanked her clump of bags through the door frame. Sorry I'm late. I had to buy a whole new wardrobe, she said, as it was the way most people would say I had to get my warts removed. Why? Massey asked. It was obvious from her devilish half smile that she already knew the answer. I lost 10 pounds from the flu. Dylan sounded surprised that Massey didn't already know this. Oh, cool, Massey replied casually. Kirsten and Alicia looked down at their glowing Palm Pilots and tried not to laugh. It's not funny, Dylan stomped her foot. I can't believe you can't tell. She unbuttoned her blazer and opened it like a pervy trench coat wearing flasher. We can tell, Alicia rolled her eyes. It's just that you were never fat to begin with, so it's hard for us to get all psyched. Especially when you talk about it all the time. Sorry, okay? It's just that losing weight has been my obsession for so long that now that I did it, I have nothing to think about. I have no goals. I feel like I've lost my thing. I'm thingless. Which is just like, bestie baby, you are literally a child. Oh my god. Be careful about who you talk about your body about in front of with your children. That'll fuck them up, man. Ugh. Claire gasped when she stepped inside. She knew Massey never did anything unless it was headline worthy, but this time she had outdone herself. Excuse me. The neat and orderly iPad had been completely transformed into an outdoor campsite. Kirsten, Alicia, and Massey were sitting cross-legged on the sleeping bags, staring at a stack of plastic logs that reflected flickering orange light off their faces. Marshmallows, chocolate squares, and graham crackers were all being passed back and forth. The lights had been dimmed and hundreds of glows in the dark stars had been stuck to Massey's ceiling. The sound effects CD supplied the greatest hits of the forest and surround sound, complete with howling wolf and babbling brook noises. An incense cone burned by Massey's bay window, filling the room with a sweet pine scent. So the house is her room is done up for a little campy experience. So they all decide that they're going to be wearing neutrals. They're not going to be wearing Juicy Couture tracksuits. And the denim has to be dark wash. And bootcut. Kirsten fills the void that she would have had with her friends by talking about how much shopping she's going to get done while the girls are gone during, enjoying the spring-summer sales. I take that back. Spring-winter sales. They hear all this noise in the background. Todd has his little robot dog outside, loudly playing out front. And it's kind of intense. Massey would, I feel like if I Know What You Did Last Summer happened, Massey would definitely let someone drown just to watch them drown. Like, throughout history, Massey would in fact be the problem. The girls turn back to the window. In his underwear? Massey squealed. Alicia, Kirsten, and Dylan raced over to the window. They burst out laughing when they saw Claire's skinny 10-year-old brother running around the backyard, chasing a black plastic mechanical puppy. His blue terry cloth robe had blown open, revealing the knee-high gray sweat socks and a pair of loose tighty-whities. They watched Todd dangle a round slab of bologna in front of a Ibo, in an attempt to make him jump. Show him how it's done, Bean. Massey placed her on the floor and opened the bedroom door. They cheered when Bean raced outside. This is gonna be good. The girls turned back to the window and waited. Claire tried to think of an excuse that would let her get outside to warn Todd, but it was too late. Bean was already tearing across the lawn and heading straight for Ibo. She spent days hating that fake dog. Its mechanical bark, the grinding sound its gears made when it moved its legs, and the way its eyes would light up red when it was awake. But now that Ibo was in danger, Claire wanted to take it all back. The dog kept Todd occupied and out of her business, and that was something to be celebrated, not to destroy. Within seconds, Bean swiped the bologna from Todd's fingers, devoured it, and then tore into Ibo. She grabbed him by his thin plastic tail and shook him back and forth. Todd was screaming for Bean to stop, but she wouldn't. "Massey, you have to do something," Claire urged, but Massey ignored her. She was having too much fun watching her flannel-clad puppy defend her turf. "We're in the wild now, remember? We have to let nature take its course." It was obvious to Claire where the pug got her ferocious survival instincts. It wasn't long before Ibo's lights went out and his body went across the yard. Todd started chasing Bean around the yard. Claire had a pit in her stomach. Part of her wanted to race to her brother's side, but she didn't dare leave the room for fear of them laughing at her while she was gone. She stuffed a few squares of chocolate in her mouth. Maybe the sugar would make her feel better. God, Massey is... And then you just have to go back into outfit planning, because questioning her authority is, a death sentence. So they go back into more outfit talk. There's a lot of talk of outfits, low-waisted cargo pants, double belting things, fuzzy beige tight V-necks, looks itchy, tons of tangled necklaces, brown fluffy moccasin boots. Claire realizes she doesn't really have a lot of what Massey's talking about in the thing, and Massey's like, "I will let you borrow some of my clothing." Of course, and Claire's sounding really excited about it. So now we get to the Master Pretty Committee's Smart Master packing list. Lake Placid. Here it's everything from bomber jackets to moccasins to earth tone, no juicy guitar sweatsuits, CNC tank tops for layering, camis and boy shorts for sleepwear only, dark wash jeans, skirts for night, nothing below the knee, cords in earth tones only, jewelry, golden hoops, necklaces. Massey's the only one allowed to wear necklaces. And Massey has abandoned her brooch obsession that she had from, I would say, late December until literally last week. Portable DVD players and chargers, cell phone and chargers, sidekicks and chargers, which a cell phone and a sidekick are the same thing. Video camera and chargers, iPods, iPod shuffles, iPod minis, iPod nanos, and their chargers, portable speakers, and their plugs. They have literally 3 pages worth of stuff. Claire is reviewing all the things on her list, knowing that she wouldn't have most anything except for her bounty of new underwear that she bought from Victoria's Secret. And she's ruminating on that until Massey gets a message from Darrington. They ask a couple of questions, and then, of course, Alicia's obsessed with Josh, so she asks Josh to ask Darrington if Josh is going. He's like, "All my boys are going." Knowing that Cam is going sends Claire into a spiral, and they ask if Chris Plovert is still going, even though he's still going, even though he's in a cask. Darrington asks, this whole interaction happens. "Love that," Dylan said. "Now he can't run away from me." "Should I tell Darrington you like Plovert?" Massey's finger hovered above her keypad. "No, I'm not making it official until tomorrow." She paused. "Unless you think he's a bad crush. If you do, it's no big deal. I could just go for someone else. Like Josh." "Don't even think about it, Marvel." Alicia threw a half-chewed marshmallow at Dylan's head. "Or I'll chop off all your hair while you're sleeping and I'll make you eat it." Claire stuffed 4 squares of chocolate into her mouth at once. "No, please don't." Dylan grabbed at her own waist. "I really don't want to gain all that weight back." "I'm embarrassed." "Just think," Kirsten said. If you stayed here with me, we could work out every day. No offense, but I'd rather eat my hair. So Claire knows that the compensation for someone that Alicia likes is, you know, getting absolutely eviscerated, let alone someone that she just tolerates if she found out that she was the one that Josh likes. Darrington asks if Claire's going because young Josh Holtz likes Claire. Seeing that and panicking to make sure that Alicia doesn't read over Massey's shoulder, Claire unplugs the computer from behind the desk with her foot. It is a terrifying moment for Claire as she realizes she's like, she doesn't even like Josh that much. You know, Claire has this choking I don't know how I'm going to edit this in there, but Claire has this choking feeling, and it is representative of a deep guttural gagging sound suddenly filled the room. Dylan, Alicia said, it's not me. Claire looked at Massey's ceiling and silently thanking God for the distraction. What? Dylan asked. I told you it's not me. Look. She pointed at Bean. The dog was rolling around in her canoe, choking. Massey jumped out of her chair and raced over to her puppy. Bean, what's wrong? What is it? Is there something in your throat? The dog kept gasping for air. She sounded like a car that was having engine problems. She sounded like a car that was having engine trouble. Bean, please say something. Massey started getting teared up. It was the first time Claire had ever seen her get emotional in front of her friends. She rubbed the pug's back in a soothing circular motion. Cough it up. While the dog was choking, Massey was rubbing. Claire thought of Cam. She imagined telling him about this traumatic moment over email or on the phone. He would probably get all quiet because he loved animals, and that would make Claire love him even more. Ugh! Why couldn't he just let me explain? Why did I have to kiss Josh? What's going to happen when Alicia finds out? Come on, Sweet Pea. You can do this, Massey urged. Cough it up. Suddenly, Ibo's plastic black tail shoots out of Bean's mouth. Good girl, you did it. Massey hugged her puppy and rocked her back and forth, her face buried between the dog's ears. See? One little cough and everything's all better. Claire covered her mouth and forced herself to cough too, but Massey was wrong. Nothing had gotten better. Her life still sucked. Well, bestie, it's partially your fault why your life kind of sucks. Like, you did not need to kiss that boy. So it's Monday. It's the day of the trip. They're all hanging out together as they drive up. They see all the boys. They're in the Range Rover. Everyone says their goodbyes. So Claire got her bangs fixed by Jacob the hairstylist at 5 o'clock in the morning, so Massey actually hasn't gotten a lot of sleep. Massey has been reading William Cain's book, The Art of Kissing, so that her second muck section would go better. Everyone is really nice to Claire, talking about how cute her haircut looks and how it's gonna make Cam fall in love with her all over again. Everyone's being nice. Talking about how cute her haircut's gonna make Cam fall all over her, and everyone's being really nice. It's just like being soured by the fact that Alicia is so Josh hungry that she's like, okay, everyone needs to focus on making sure that Josh likes me, and finding out who Josh like is essential. So that she can pull her hair and beat her. Because it's like, what are you gonna do besides tear this girl down and make her, Josh seems like he's not a good person, and make Josh feel like you're not a very good person in his head. Which, whatever. Isaac unloads the 5 cases of vitamin water and still in suitcases. The Blocks, the Lionesses, and everyone comes to say goodbye. Everyone's coming except for Dylan's mom, who has to come from the city. All the bags are packed up, even though it's a kind of a tight fit with all the girls' luggage. Claire cannot stop watching cannot stop watching Cam interact, making herself sick with, what is he thinking? What does he think about me? What does he think about all these other girls? Ooh, woo, ooh, woo. Does he like him? Does he like her? Does he like her more than me? What could any of this mean? Everyone starts hugging their parents, and Alexandra wants Dylan to give her the flu so that she too can get skinny. Yikes. There's a little bit that's kind of a there's this bit in which Dylan's just like, oh my god, you're a size 2? Like, now I was a size 2 and now I'm back down to being a 0, I guess. And she says that like being a size 2 is a bad thing. When I started shopping in the junior section in 8th grade, I started out as a size 4, like, bro. And I spent most of my chubby years in high school as a size 6. I'm back to being a size 6 because, gestures wildly at pandemic lifestyle. But like, being a size, I also have big old knockers, so that's part of it. But like, being a size 2 and being in the 7th grade, it's like, chill. Watch how you talk about your body in front of your kids. They get weird. Massey also has lost a little bit of weight because she's been so stressed about Darrington. She isn't eating properly. When asked about her dieting secret, she just says she eats a lot of cheese, which is kind of funny because they're like, isn't cheese supposed to be fattening? And she's like, well, I guess not. Which I don't know if that's mind games where she's setting up someone else, keep them on their toes, they'll never know. Or if she legitimately just was like, I don't know, I'll just come up with an answer so that they think it's intentional. And then, who cares if it works for them or not. Josh rolls up to Claire and is like, oh my god, cute bangs. I really like them. They show off your big blue eyes. Claire flashed him a fake smile and then nervously searched the crowd. Hey, there you are. Alicia stepped in front of Josh so that she could lock eyes with Claire. Cam is looking for you. Is he? She's so gullible that she, lets herself get taken. Massey sets her friend straight and being like, girl, he's not looking for you. He's not thinking about you. Darrington appears and it looks like it's time. But it isn't, because Massey gets immediately nervous and ends up trying to avoid him while boarding the bus. Dylan's mom, Mary Lee, appears and is like, oh my god, I'm going on the trip. I'm going to write an expose about it for my show, Oprah style, which absolutely sends Dylan into a tizzy, which it should, because it's kind of gross. I just don't like the exploitation of children. It feels like proto-mommy blogger, where she's just like, I'm gonna go on this trip with and show off my kid, even if they didn't ask to be a part of this, which Dylan certainly didn't. Her mom is flirting with Mr. Minard and makes Dylan sit up front with her instead of being with her friends. Because she's up front, there's an extra seat, which means that Darrington can sit in the back with Massey, but Massey does not want that. So she pretends to have a headache for the entire 5-hour drive on the bus all the way up to Lake Placid. Massey, the Muck girls are very embarrassing. They want to do little kissies on the forehead. Olivia's talking about doing oral without the context. It's just a bad look. Massey is a very act like you've been here before type person. And these girls are not acting like they've been anywhere before. So after the 5-hour trip, they get where they're going. Claire is already taking a whole bunch of photos as they appear in Lake Placid, New York. Dylan is upset because she had to listen to her mom flirt with Mr. Minor for the entire trip, and Claire takes a whole bunch of photos. It's like, yeah, they haven't even seen the inside of the cabin, but she's making sure that she's getting all of it. They get inside the cabin, and it's like the girls are all dressed in like cute winter clothes, and I guess in New York it's a little chilly. Just outside of New York City is a lot less chilly than Lake Placid. On the lake and in the mountains, it is so cold, and they are dressed in this cutesy, sexy little, sexy outfits, and they are not keeping the girls warm. So they are totally... Whew. Alicia jumps up and down. Someone makes a crude comment about her body. She jumps up and down to generate warmth. So the two teachers that are chaperoning the event is Mr. Minard, who's the geography teacher at OCD, and Mr. Dingle, who is from Briarwood. And I do have a question. Mr. Minard is described as a very muscular, manly man. Man, who mans and mans. But the question is, why is the only woman chaperone, Mary Lee? And if Mary Lee hadn't come, there would be no women chaperones for this all-girls school. And I know that there are boys there, but why? Where's the women's? Where are the feminine energies to understand the girls and keep them safe in a way that I don't trust a male teacher to do? It's not that I don't trust male teachers, it's just, gestures at life. There are things that could come up that would be better handled by a woman, especially with the fact that most of these girls are they're in that age group where they start experiencing their first menses, and the idea that this man is doing it makes me uncomfy. Don't love that. A femme presenting teacher is someone, besides straight alpha man. So the girls get shown to their quarters, and it's like Ralph Lauren. It's Ralph Lauren inspired cabins for the girls to stay in. The entire room smelled like sweet pine needles. There were 5 bunk beds, but not the kind you see in jail movies. These were the kind where the posts are made of hefty shellacked logs and the mattresses are thick and covered with fluffy feather beds. Each bunk had a different colorful Indian blanket folded across the bottom and a thick pillow at the top with a hunter green flannel pillowcase. White fluffy sheepskin rugs covered most of the dark wood floors, except for the area around the fireplace that was piled high with pillows and red suede beanbags. Stuffed animal heads hung above the mantel, adding the final touches to the hunting lodge theme. A row of 10 cedar closets lined the back wall of the cabin, so each girl had their own personal storage. Alicia's still trying to scope out who Josh likes, and she's so cold about it. It's not very endearing. Claire is the one that Josh likes, and anyone who's actually listening to Josh when he talks would know that, but Alicia just doesn't see Claire as a threat right now. Alicia is, asking Massey about it, and Massey, trying to protect Claire, is like, I don't know, just drop it. And of course that makes Alicia turn towards Olivia. It's like Claire couldn't be a threat, but everyone also could be a threat that she could beat their ass. Massey was fully hoping she wouldn't have to teach another lesson, but the Muck Girls come up and are like, when is our next lesson? The next lesson is going to be that night, after they do whatever they're gonna do. Claire is unpacking, and Lainey comes up fast, saying that she needs to borrow a pair of underwear. It is clear that Lainey has unfortunately started her second period while on the trip. Claire brought a whole bunch of fresh new underwear from Victoria's Secret when she went, and so she has a whole bunch to share. She brought so many that when Alicia jokingly asks her if she wants some, she gives her some, just so that she won't talk to her, with this whole Josh situation going on. Mary Lee comes in instigating good shots for her documentary, her docu-series. She has the boys come in to the girls' cabin, which they're not allowed to do, and, you know, bingle bangle around. The girls, Darrington comes to talk to Massey, and all of the Mutt girls are watching their interactions. Josh talks to Claire a little bit, and, you know, Cam avoids Claire. Alicia's like, I wonder if Josh was... Mr. Dinkle comes and herds the boys out of the room, telling them that if you come back in here, that you will be expelled and removed from the trip. After the boys leave, Massey goes back to unpacking, in which he finds out that her entire suitcase is ruined. It is filled with her clothing. One of her leave-in shampoos exploded on the trip out, and thus all of her clothing is covered in leave-in conditioner. As she's talking, she goes to Mr. Minor to ask him about the dry cleaning services that are offered here on the mountains so that she can get her clothing taken care of. He throws a fit, kind of, and hardens up and is like, no, this is a roughing it situation. And thus we learn Massey spread her arms wide open and hugged a pile of ultra-soft cashmere sweaters. At first touch, they felt odd and slightly gooey, like someone had squeezed on them. She lifted them up with care and caution, not quite sure what to expect. Oh my God, she squealed. Her favorite Taka dark green double V-neck sweater looked like a wet poodle. While Mr. Minor started the fire, everyone offered to share clothes with Massey, like she had recently become homeless. She accepted their charity with grace, but deep down inside she was still mourning. Darrington would never get to see the adorable rustic combination she had dreamt up. Instead, he would see whatever Alicia's sevens or Claire's turtlenecks, unless Kirsten would be willing to do a quick shop and FedEx run for her. As soon as Minor left, she would call and place her order. Mr. Minor lit a match and tossed it onto the tower of newspaper and logs he had built in the middle of the pit. Mr. Minor lifted his leg onto the marble ledge of the fireplace and rested his arm on his knee. He looked like he was posing for the cover of Outdoor Life magazine. I have an exciting few days planned for you girls, he said. By Wednesday, you will know how to read maps, navigate using a compass, build igloos, and survive on little more than your wits and ripe berries. Does FedEx service this area? I believe so. Why? I'm just trying to solve my clothing crisis, Massey said. Thanks. Minor lowered his leg and ran his fingers through his thick black hair, which brings me to my next point. Your girls packed like you were going away for the next year, not for 3 days, and that's not going to fly with me. Everyone looked at each other, wondering what he could possibly be getting at. You are here to learn how to survive in the wild, and the first lesson you're going to be learning is living light. Okay, so I want each of you to pick out 2 pairs of pants, 2 sweaters, 2 long sleeve jerseys, 3 pairs of underwear, and 1 pair of boots. The rest of your stuff will be taken away and locked in the bus until it's time to leave. And oh, try to avoid white or anything with stripes, because I'm told they don't look good on camera. Dylan hid her face. The girls are all, now that they have to live in a capsule wardrobe, they are all stunned that they're going to be on camera wearing outfits that they're being repeated, let alone the boys seeing them in repeated outfits. Oh no. Everyone's going to learn how to dress and clothe themselves sustainably, wash their own clothing in the lake using ivory soap, because apparently that is biodegradable. The girls are like, what about all the money we spent on the clothing we bought? And it's like, yeah, well, your parents were made aware of that, and they still let you do that, so that's not my business. He collects up all of the extra food stashes, shiny jewelry, and He collects up all the extra food stashes and all their shiny jewelry, as to not attract bears, which I feel suspect about. These are rich kids, and you're gonna take away their jewelry and like just toss it in a bag? Feels a little, not my favorite. He's like, your parents were told about this, and this is the deal. I don't know why they let you buy all this. But like if it's, okay, I know what I want to say. But if like a teacher took my chain, I'm sorry, I wouldn't slap him. I am too respectful. But you're gonna take my chain? You're gonna take my items of clothing? How dare you? My money? And you're just, I can understand like knowing what you are and aren't supposed to bring and then bring them anyway and there being consequences to that. But the idea that a teacher just could come up and take my stuff, absolutely not. My stuff of value. You can catch this lawsuit. So, I burnt myself on a candle while writing this. So they take everyone's extra food stuff. So Massey's vitamin water is left on the bus. Everyone's video games, DVD players, cell phones, sidekicks, computers, all of that. If they're found to have technology on them, they're going to be sent home. And Claire and Lainey have to give up their sparkly heads that they spent their time before the trip bedazzling. And they just get dumped into like a trash bag. It's like, when are they going to get their stuff back? And how am I going to ensure that my stuff isn't being damaged by just tossing it back? I am not that type of girl. I like, let me put it in my suitcase or my backpack and I will give it to you willingly, but do not make me put my stuff in a bag with other people's stuff. I feel like I'd be very mad. Massey gets to keep one of her chains because it has a compass on it, and he like chokes her trying to make sure that the compass is real, and like, I don't love that. Do not love that. Do not love Mr. Minor. I have so many different tabs of various dumb things that Olivia said. I wish I had more time to get into it, but I don't. So Mr. Minor explains that he wants everyone up. Okay, I will read one of the dumb things that she said. You have exactly 10 minutes to wash up and dress warmly. I'd like to see you all in front of the powwow log at 1400 hours. That's the big stump right in front of the dining pavilion. Olivia raises her hand. Yes, Olivia? My watch only goes up to 12, she says. Everyone laughed. Olivia looked around with a confused expression on her face. 1400 is military time for 2 o'clock, Mr. Minor said kindly. I will be happy to explain how it works if you'd like. Nah, it's not like I'm going to join or anything, but thanks anyway. Bless that dumbass, I love her. Sitting around waiting, and the boys who are not important because they're not on the soccer team, I don't know if someone was like, Lacey, what about the boys that the girls aren't interested? Are there any boys that the girls aren't interested in? And they are just unimportant. Claire wondered if they knew they had an audience. They assumed they did. Massey rarely did anything without one. Cat fight, Darrington shouted as he approached the log with Kemp Hurley and Josh Holtz. 5 other guys lagged behind them, but Claire didn't even know their names. According to the pretty committee, they didn't count because 1, they never bothered to flirt. 2, they weren't on the soccer team. And 3, they were barely tall enough to turn a light switch. Just love that. Massey makes a dick joke about Mr. Minor flirting with Dylan's mom, that he's going to be pitching a tent. Claire muses about how weird it is that everyone is still so segregated, that the boys, hang out by the log, but they're over by the trees. And that back in Orlando, everyone would have just hung out together. Alicia calls her a perv, which speaks to conservative prudence and how with money, you get real weird and real backwards sometimes. The kids are broken up into 3 groups to do the scavenger hunt. The goal of the scavenger hunt is lunch. You can either have a really good lunch or a really good lunch that rich kids think are gross. Mr. Dingle jumps in. The first pod to arrive will get a gourmet lunch in the dining pavilion consisting of lobster mac and cheese, Caesar salad, prime rib with herb and butter sauce. For dessert, you will have your choice of banana Fosters, deep fried ice cream, and double fudge chocolate brownies. The losing pods will be served deviled eggs and saffron rice by the outdoor fire pit. No dessert. And the winners will also get to go on a hot air balloon ride so that they can admire the park's breathtaking typography. They are handed very basic maps. Whew, alright, Pod 1. Alexandra Reagan, Kemp Hurley, Livy Collins, Derek Harrington, Stephen Parker, and Dylan Marvel. And Paul Dano. Which, isn't Paul Dano the name of an actor? Pod 2. Claire Lyons, Olivia Ryan, Josh Holtz, Cam Fisher, and Coral McAdams. Coral, if you remember from Book 3, Revenge of the Wannabes. Pod 3 is Alicia Rivera, Carrie Rudolph, Lane Aberty, Mark Cooper, B.J. O'Brien, Adam Freeman, and Massey Block. Which feels like there's a lot more in that group than there was in the other group, but whatever. Chris Pulver is upset that he doesn't get to go into a group because he's injured, and they let him go anyway. Claire, Olivia, and Cam and Strawberry's group, Strawberry punches a spruce tree because she has anger management issues, and that should be something that is discussed, which she concerns me. I'm worried about her. Josh wants to talk with Claire, Claire wants to talk with Cam, and Cam ignores Claire. Claire's watching him, be nice, bare minimum, be nice to Strawberry, and is like, oh my god, does he like her? What does she have that I don't? And it's like, honestly, you're focusing on the wrong thing. You literally kissed another boy. It has nothing to do about if he cares about these other people more than he cared about you. You broke off the relationship in any meaningful way. You ended it. It's really spiraling in this moment. Alicia sent Olivia to figure out who Josh likes, so she's asking him questions in a game of Would You Rather to figure it out. Also, Josh brought his camera that he hid from the teacher to take pictures because he knows that Claire likes taking pictures, and I guess he also probably likes taking pictures too. Oof. So Claire is trying to off-put Josh, partially because she doesn't want Alicia's wrath, but mostly because she still wants Kim. So Olivia starts the game of Would You Rather. Jessica Simpson or Ashley? Jessica. That one's easy. Principal Burns or Hillary Clinton? Ew, neither. Fine, Hillary. Good. Strawberry or Alicia? Alicia, Josh answered. Alexandria or Alicia? Is Alexandria the one with the green braces? Yep. Alicia. Olivia smiled to herself. Carrie, Libby, or Alicia? Alicia. Lane or Alicia? Alicia. Nice. Claire or Alicia? Claire and Cam stopped walking at the same time. This time was not happening. Please no. Don't you want to give Pulvert a chance to play? Claire quickly chimed in. Yeah, ask me one. And dodged bullet, but still. Panic. So Pulvert falls. They don't know how to read a map. Everyone's mad. They have to get him up, but as they look at the map, they can hear the other group cheering. This is suspect because this is the group that had the camera crew following them because it's Dylan's group and Dylan's mom was with Dylan. So of course that's the group that won. Claire is like, Strawberry starts yelling at Claire for no reason really. And Cam is just like, chill, because he wants her to shut up. And Claire is just like, oh my god, he still cares about me to protect me. He still likes me. And then he brushes her off and she's like, oh, he doesn't like me. Which is just annoying. I don't love an if or then boy situation. So back up at the whatchamacallit, at the powwow, Darrington asks Massey for a kiss because he won, and you know, she gives him a little kiss off sassy retort, and he's a little hurt because like she keeps rebuffing his like move forward isms, and he doesn't know that she's playing hard to get, but that's still, it's just like yeah, everyone's miserable. Lane got her period that morning, so she's got cramps and she's miserable. Massey corners Claire and is like, you need to teach me how to kiss. Because she's the only one in the friend group who's had a consensual kiss that they wanted. And I guess Alicia has done her fair share of truth or dare kissing, but she can't let Alicia know that she knows. There's something special about Massey and Claire's relationship. It's more sisterly than this competitive best friendness of the rest of the Westchester gang. Claire agrees, as long as she agrees, to not let Alicia know that she kissed Josh. I need you to teach me how to kiss, Massey whispered. What? Since when did making out with Josh Holt once make her an expert? Please? Claire searched Massey's amber eyes. Was she joking? But there was no flicker of mischief and no innocent eye batting. This was real. Massey, Please, Massey begged. Claire wished someone had been around to witness this moment. She'd always fantasized about Massey desperately needing her for something, but never this. For the first time in their relationship, Claire was in a position of power over Massey, and she intended to take full advantage of it. Okay. Claire straightened her shoulders and raised her chin in the air. Massey sighed. But only if you do something for me. Anything, Massey promised. I need you to help me get Cam back, Claire said, before he ends up liking someone else. No problem. Massey sounded like she already knew exactly how she was going to pull it off. Done. Done, Claire answered back, feeling like she had just made a deal with the devil. One she had no idea how to repay. So later that evening, Massey has commandeered an igloo that Mr. Miner had made during a lesson for the private kissing lesson. Massey turned on the four battery power heaters she had swiped from her cabin and placed them around the igloo. She wanted Claire to feel warm when she arrived for their private kissing lesson. Everything's decorated from the cabin, so it's very cinnamony, the same Ralph Lauren that I've previously explained. The class is reading Hatchet, which if you didn't go to public school, Hatchet is about this 13-year-old boy who survives a plane crash and learns to fend for himself in the Canadian wilderness. I have a very distinct memory of one of the few times my father sat at the kitchen table with us, explaining the entire plot of Hatchet. So, like, I'm not new to this explaining the plot of books. I'm true to it. I'm just now annoying the rest of you instead of my family. I've been doing it since 2008, third grade. Claire comes in with this moose head that they're using as a kissing specimen. It was either a duck or a fish or the moose, so they come in with the moose, and they call the moose Deuce, Darrington Moose. Whew, so Claire does some explaining on how to kiss, how the head should go, how one should move. Massey's very anxious about the idea of learning how to kiss, and about part of the way to know that a kiss is going to happen is the silence that comes before you move in and you take a little boop. But Massey is someone who always likes to know what's going on all the time, and so the idea of not knowing is sending her, talking to fill the air. Part of that cool girl act like you've been here before is not letting the nervousness that comes with an empty silence. It all connects back to that Christmas tree with all the lights off energy. She's having not a terrible time, but she's not feeling great, as she's not fully in control of the situation. Claire is. And this book is an exercise in Massey feeling fully out of control and out of her enemy. out of her element. Lacey, half this book's plots are just Lacey setting up a situation in which Massey likes being in control, and then we rip the control away from her, and we see how she reacts to the different stimuli. It's okay, once you start, he'll follow. Claire sounded like she'd been teaching courses on kissing at Harvard. But don't close your eyes yet, or you may miss your target, she warned. Shut them slowly. Imagine they're being controlled by the dimmer switch in your bedroom. Massey wanted to strangle Mr. Meyer for having confiscated her Palm Pilot. She needed to write all of this down. Just a little. Especially I'm very good at it when with these little face caterpillars on, and it keeps the slit open a little bit. You can't see that I can see. No Matt James kisses in here. No weird little direct open eye kisses. God, Matt James was a weird kisser. That man was a wild bachelor. They're working on kissing and things, and there's bonding. It's very sisterly. But don't forget that she read Richard William Cain's Art of the Kissing and watched his DVD, so she does know a thing or two about lip kissing and tongue kissing and French kissing. She's determined to make the girls in her grade forget about Nina Obscena, and they're going to worship her again. So the Muck Girls have arrived. The rest of the Muck Girls arrive except for Lane, who has to lie down because her cramps are so bad. Everyone is so aware of these signs that she's having bad periods, or that periods are bad. Alexandra is, talking about how she wants to move forward, but, Massey clocks the fact that she hasn't been keeping up with her oral hygiene yet. Massey regurgitates what Claire taught her, throwing in what she learned about tongue kissing from the book that she read. However, of course she doesn't say it's from the book. And she's claimed she's done everything with Darrington, which, sets off Alicia and Dylan, because they're like, what is she talking about? What is our friend talking about? So, how long did you practice before you started kissing Darrington? Unfortunately, I didn't have that luxury, Massey replied. He caught me off guard and I just had to wing it. Exactly when did it happen? Dylan asked. Was it at the OCD tree lighting ceremony? No, I bet it was after the tree trimming gala, Alicia jumped in. There was tons of mistletoe around there. Massey gets her release when the igloo starts to melt and everyone panics and leaves because they don't want their hair to get wet. The drops of water start coming down a little faster now. The girls are getting distracted. They'd have to pat their heads dry before their hair frizzed or their mascara ran. What's going on? It's getting hot in here, Alexandra's saying. Oh, it's getting hot in here. Suddenly everyone broke into Nellie's old hit. Shh, we'll get busted. Oh my god. Alicia lifted her gray cashmere Ralph Lauren coat over her head. It's pouring on me. A steady stream of water was falling on Alicia's head. Turn off the heaters, Dylan yelled. They're melting the igloo. And blow out the candles. Streams of water were pouring down from all around them. Abort! Abort! She blew out the candle and grabbed the beanbag. She blew out her candles. Everyone, grab a beanbag and rug and get out. What about Deuce? Claire joked once they were all outside. Women and children first! That lesson was killer. So everyone's happy with the lesson they got. They all evacuate, and you think she's gotten away with not having to explain herself. But no. They come out and they see the boys, and then Darrington's like, "Ooh, baby, why don't you kiss me?" But, in a less gross way. I'm a comedian, so. He's actually kind of sweet about it. It's like trying to express his feelings and what he wants, and she's just like, yeah, no. She's just like, Massey gets embarrassed because, again, she's out of control in the situation. And she panics, and Darrington thinks when she starts being, giving a sassy retort. The girls start throwing in the stuff about who she's been kissing. And he's like, well, are you kissing other boys? Because you certainly haven't kissed me yet. And she panics and they panic. And Darrington kind of half breaks up with her. Her friends are immediately like, after all the other girls leave, because they're like, oh my god, I swear if you've been making out with other guys while I've been waiting, I'll... What does he mean, waiting? Darrington was standing beside them now. A cloud of steam shot out of his mouth as he fought to catch his breath. I want to know who you've been tongue-kissing. Darrington looked deep into Massey's eyes. Just you? Massey's voice quivered. Me? Darrington lifted his eyebrows. Ha! So, as everyone's revolting, Alicia and Dylan are left with the girls. The Muck girls are asking for their money back, but it's like, you're not going to get that money back, bitch. So, left alone with just her pretty committee girls, Dylan's like, I'm glad you were lying and that you hadn't just been, not telling us things. Sending us to the dark, the gulag. She was like, I thought we were totally starting to drift apart. Oh no. So, Massey leaves the rest of the group because, again, she's been shamed, and goes and writes her State of the Union on some woods. This is a long chapter, and a lot of things happen in it. Massey blocks current State of the Union in the Pretty Committee. Keeping my mouth shut. I need to learn to keep my mouth closed. And this. Out, the Muck girls. Open mouth kisses, Darrington. So you think the chapter would be over at that point, but no. No. We hear some whispering and chuckling around behind her, and when she was done, Massey folded the bark and stuffed it in the back pocket of her jeans. Psst. Someone called to her from behind a nearby bush. Hello? Massey heard her own voice tremble. Were the Muck girls spying on her? Did they have weapons? Who's there? It's me, a girl's voice answered. Me who? Massey heard a familiar phlegmy laugh. Was the trauma making her hallucinate? Kristen? She whispered into the dark, cold night. Kirsten stepped out of the behind the bush and giggled. She was wearing a green and white OCD soccer uniform. What are you doing here? Massey hugged her friend as hard as she could. She used the money that she got from the Muck girls to buy a normal bus ticket to get up there, and because she memorized the girls' schedules, she was able to get up the mountain to where they were. And Massey doesn't tell her about the making out thing, but she is glad to have a friend who's not mad at her right now. Okay. I don't know why. I guess Lacey Harrelson has so many characters in these books. I think at some point she was like, what am I gonna do with all these hoes? And I think, because it's not just the 5 girls. It's the 5 girls that always has, and the plot always has to do with Massey and Claire. And then the 3 other girls, Alicia tends to always have some kind of interpersonal drama with Massey. And then Alicia has her own side characters in Olivia and Nina for the last book. And, Claire has Lane. Kirsten and Dylan feel like side characters. They feel like the same way that Claire is to Lainey as Massey is to Dylan and Kirsten. And they don't feel like their own developed characters. Outside of that, you've made too many characters. Lainey feels more developed than our actual 4th and 5th leads. Dylan and what's her face? And maybe I just relate to those girls more, because I also, when I bought my copies of the Clique Summer Collection, as a tween, I bought Alicia, Massey, and Claire with the intent on buying Kirsten and Dylan at some point, but I didn't. Okay. You gotta start cutting characters, man. Because Dylan and Kirsten essentially do the same things. Kirsten is poor and athletic, and Dylan is mean and quote-unquote fat. So, still the same day, time before bed, they're reading Hatchet. Claire sneaks some food back for Massey because Massey didn't want to come to dinner because she has a stomachache / was embarrassed. Claire again thinks that Strawberry is going for Cam. Lainey tries to help and tell her that no, you're being silly. She obviously isn't. Claire watches Josh and Alicia together and then accidentally make eye contact with Josh. Josh plucks up a flower, one of the few flowers that are alive in this winter hellscape, and gives it to her and is like, ooh, I like you. Massey flags Claire down to introduce her to the fact that Kirsten is here, which is buck wild, because it's like this girl just hopped the bus and then got onto the campsite. Are we not in a post 9/11 world? So now it's time to figure out how we are going to fix Darrington and Massey. Claire thinks that what they should do, that they have to share a kiss while the Muck Girls are watching, so that they, they're aware of how skilled a kisser she is, and also that she's not lying about kissing him. Seeing is believing. So they go around the campsite. They're behind the girls' camp lodge, and they find underwear. They keep finding panties. They are technically Claire's panties, but they're the panties that she gave to Lane as she bleeds through them. I would be more worried about attracting more bears with my blood than I would anyone finding out that I was having a period, but I've been in the game longer than I haven't been in the game at this point, so I've just given up any shame. I literally kept a day-to-day vlog of how I was dealing with trying out new period products this last cycle. I don't know, I've given up on being ashamed, scared, or afraid of what my cooch do. She's trying to kill me. I can't be afraid of a bitch who tried to kill me. I will not be afraid of a bitch who tried to kill me. So Lainey just keeps leaving them places in trees and in the dirt, tossing them out of the camp. It's super gross. I don't know, that wouldn't be my move. They keep finding the underwear on the campsite, and they're like, ah. So they switch, and now it's time for Massey to figure out how to help Claire. Massey tells her that she hasn't put herself out on the line, and that she needs to go over to the boys' camp at night and tell him face to face. So all you need to do is sneak into the boys' cabin tonight, look Cam in the eye, either the blue or the green one, it doesn't matter, and tell him straight up how sorry you are. Massey looked at Claire with an expectant smile, like she was waiting for a thank you hug or a dozen roses for her brilliance. Claire didn't know what to say. There were so many things wrong with this plan. She didn't know where to begin. Sneak into the boys' cabin. Where if I get caught? I'd get suspended for sure. And what if Cam laughs in my face or ignores me like he's been doing all week? They decide to dress her up like Kirsten in the soccer uniform. So it's, time to move. Our next act is moved into. We are in the closing. Lane, you can't just throw underwear in the woods, Claire whisper yelled. She swung the panties in front of her face. They're not biodegradable for starters, and I'm sorry, okay? Lainey burst into tears. But what was I supposed to do? Give them back to you like that? She ripped them away from Claire. Or maybe I should have tossed them in the trash so Massey could find them and parade them around the boys' cabin. Massey would never do that. Lainey rolled her eyes and then wiped her tears with the sleeve of her pink and white Hello Kitty nightgown. She wouldn't, Claire insisted. She didn't like that Massey was getting blamed for this when she had nothing to do with this. I feel like we're coming up on it, but if there's one thing I specifically remember from the Clique books is the wide set vagina incident, in which Massey tries to shame Claire by saying that she has to use big tampons because her coochie is, you know, wide and I guess loose and big and not skinny. I don't know. I'm living in I'm in the land of coochie, an actual sex haver land. You know, fat ma ain't nothing to fight, but that is exactly something that Massey would do, and I think she will do. But she hasn't done it, so you can't accuse her of doing it. So Lane is in fact the first girl in their grade to get her period, and she doesn't want everyone to know. All I'm saying is if this is happening this year, Massey would be hosting a pussy hat period party where she names her period something ridiculous like Vivian Ann, and they bash Vivian Ann in. So, as everyone's sitting around waiting, Mr. Minor comes in and is like, I came across a, I came across a melted pile where my whatchamacallit was, where there was wet rugs and the moose, and y'all have destroyed lodge property, so tomorrow morning you're gonna wake up first thing in the morning and remake this igloo. Also, Kirsten's hiding under the bed. There I was walking the ground, securing our sight before retiring for the evening. His words sounded like the beginning of another campfire story. When I noticed a pathetic heap of ice and snow. Funny, I thought. That's exactly where my igloo was. He paused and scanned their faces for a reaction, but the girls gave him nothing. Claire desperately wanted to look at Massey or the Muck Girls, but kept her hand on her pillow and focused on the sagging mattress above her, trying not to laugh. So I inched closer to investigate. Mr. Minor marched over towards the door and threw it open. He stepped outside, and when he returned holding Deuce by his antlers. Funny. Not only did you steal lodge property, he waved Deuce in the air, but you destroyed my property, and you will all get up tomorrow morning at sunrise, which is exactly 6:40 a.m., and rebuild my igloo before breakfast. Mr. What's-His-Face is paraded off by Mary Lee calling him, which of course just gives Dylan more the ick. And honestly, me too. Keep that shit, in your off-work hours. While Dylan complained about her mother and Alicia and Olivia went back to whispering, Kirsten silently pulled off her soccer clothes and handed them up to Massey, who discreetly passed them to Claire. It wasn't easy wiggling out of flannels and putting on sweats under a layer of heavy wool blankets, but Claire was determined. She pinned her blonde hair to the back of her head and swept her short bangs to the left, because Massey insisted it drew attention to her good side. Once Claire was dressed, she handed her a pink and green plaid flannel nightshirt to Massey, who tossed them under her bed for Kirsten. Phase 1 of the plan was complete. Now all Claire had to do was stay awake until the others fell asleep. Then she would sneak out. Somewhere between counting the hoots and the number of times Strawberry snored, Claire drifted off. She woke suddenly to the sound of footsteps creaking on the wood of the cabin floors. A tingle of prickly sweat welled up on the bottom of her feet. Was it a bear? Was it Mr. Minor checking up on them? Was Alicia coming to strangle her? The cabin door opened slowly, then closed. It must have been someone going to the bathroom. Claire decided she would wait until they came back and leave, just in case they ran into each other outside. Some time later, it was hard to tell exactly how much without her watch, Claire woke up again. She was mad at herself for drifting off, but she knew now that whoever had been walking around was either gone or had gone back to sleep. Claire slowly sat up in her bed. The springs squeaked a little when she moved, but no one stirred. Gently she rose to her feet and waited to see if anyone had woken up. Nothing. She lifted her right leg and stretched it out as far as it would go so that it touched one of the sheepskin rugs and not the creaky wood. When she felt the fluff beneath her wool socks, Claire took another step. She slipped on her shoes and then continued to make her way across the cabin, lightly hopping from one rug to the next, the same way she used to leap across the river rocks back in Florida. The brisk night air was invigorating. It sharpened Claire's mind and cooled the thin layer of nervous sweat that had coated her skin. On the count of 3, she vowed to jump off the side of the porch and make a run for the boys' cabin. Next chapter, but we're going to keep going. She gets to the boys' cabin wearing Kirsten's uniform when she notices. I'm just going to read how the boys' cabin is set up because I think it's an interesting juxtaposition that they did not give the boys not half the care that they gave the girls. Claire zigzagged through a minefield of muddy Timberlands, worn messenger bags, and torn-out pages from graphic novels on her way over to Cam's bed. There wasn't a fluffy white rug in the entire cabin, and instead of a cozy beanbag and pillow nook by the fireplace, there were big rocks covered in plaid blankets. It was more rugged than her bunk and a lot less cozy. Once everyone was still, Claire leaned forward and nudged Cam out of his sleep. He rolled over and faced her, then nudged his blue and green eyes open. Why am I drilling so hard? Dude! He shot up in bed. Dude? What are you doing here? Claire lowered herself and sat on the edge of his mattress by his pillow. Sorry, didn't mean to scare you. Claire? Yeah, I thought you were Brian Jeffries. Cam blinked a few times to clear his vision. Who? Claire didn't really care what Cam was saying as long as he was talking to her. That girly-looking towel boy who's always begging Coach for a tryout. You look exactly like him. What's with the outfit? Claire wanted to jump out of her skin with excitement. They were having a normal conversation. Maybe everything was fine. Maybe it had all been a bad dream. I need to talk to you. She twisted the green Puma sweatband around her wrist. And Mr. Miner said that if the girls got caught in the boys' cabin, she'd get home, so... Well, if Dingle catches you here, I'll get kicked off the soccer team, so you better go. Cam flopped back down and folded his hands behind his head. Then let's sneak out back. I have to tell you something. Cam didn't move. He stared at the mattress above him and breathed deeply. He wasn't going to make this easy. Fine, I'll leave. So she explains, her side of the whole love spell debacle bullshit. He forgives her, and they decide on a plan to have them meet tomorrow, and so that she can be his first kiss, at the very least. They're going to meet at 7, right after the whatchamacallit, to go and have a romantic kiss. Meet me after dinner tomorrow night at Powwow Log, Cam whispered. And oh, please don't say this. Oh, and don't say that this is the end. I won't be happy until we've kissed, Cam says. Then a familiar non-boy smell. She leaves the cabin, and as she's leaving, then a familiar non-boy smell filled the air. It was the spicy combination of vanilla and chocolate. It was Alicia's angel perfume. Was she here? Did she hear what I had said about kissing Josh? No way, right? But what if she did? So Mr. Miner comes in at 5:50 a.m. to get everyone up, and everyone's grouchy. And then he's like, it's raining, so you don't have to come and build the igloo. So he said he'd come back in an hour to get everyone up at actual sunrise. Lainey keeps leaving her bloody underwear places. There's underwear found in the hollow part behind Deuce's chest, where in his head, in the thing, it lands on Massey's chest, which is so gross. Massey gets Claire to come outside. She confides with her that Alicia heard the whole thing about Josh. Massey is unconcerned because it's not about her. Massey is very focused on fixing her Darrington problem. Problem comes because the two things that they have to do today have lined up. Massey's plan to get Darrington is happening at 7, and Claire kissing and making up with Cam is happening at 7. So obviously Massey's like, well, you gotta move your thing. It can happen at 8. It can happen at 7:45, but I'm doing this at 7:30. Massey's plan requires Claire to leave the girls over, so Massey obviously thinks her plan is more important. So she's like, well, you better tell them to reschedule. And Claire does, because Massey's reputation's on the line. It's more important. So now it's lunchtime, and Kirsten has been hiding underneath Massey's bed all day, just waiting. It's like she spent the money to come here, but she's doing the same thing she was doing at home. She's just now with her friends. Also instigating a whole issue in which some more bullshit happens. She's just waiting, reading trail maps, and eating everyone else's snacks. Claire knows that Alicia knows something because she keeps looking over at her and whispering, but she doesn't know what. Alicia waves at her and is super sweet. Claire's like, it should be fine, everything's fine. Spoiler alert, everything was not fine. Claire goes over to Alicia and is like, hey, can you do me a favor? So Claire's like, hey, can you deliver a note to Cam for me? Because Alicia's sitting at the boys' table. She's like, of course, duh. See, something came up. Can we meet up powwow log at 7:30 p.m. instead of 7 p.m.? If it's cool, ignore me. If it isn't, send a note. Can't wait. That's a terrible, terrible note sending format. Because you don't know if he got it or not. You're just assuming because he's ignoring you. You're setting yourself up for failure, bestie. You truly are. I really hold a lot of sympathy for you, but you were truly setting yourself up to get whacked. It's evening time. It's 6:39. Just before the time for the various meetups are about to happen. It's time to lose the lip virginity, I guess. Kirsten comes running into a roadblock because her parents aren't expecting her back until Friday. But obviously everyone else is going to be returning on Wednesday, and it's like, what is she going to do? Well, we never have to deal with that question. Massey is frustrated because she's not the center of attention, and when she's really the only one she feels like she's the only person who's got the deepest problem, according to her, even though it's kind of self-inflicted. She's so mean-spirited that, you could put... It's just, like, gross. It's another gross Masseyism. The worst part is there isn't even going to be a bus out here until tomorrow night. Kirsten sighed at her reflection. Ugh. So, Massey felt her jaw tighten. She desperately wanted to tell Kirsten to shut up so that she could think clearly, but fought the urge with every bit of strength she had. After all, the girl had spent the last 2 nights lying on a wood floor and probably needed a minute to vent. I just can't show up at home early. Kirsten turned away from the mirror and looked at Massey like she was insane. My parents aren't expecting me back until Friday. Tell them the soccer game got canceled because someone got hurt, Claire suggested. Ugh, why is everyone so obsessed with Kirsten and her lame parents? Can we please move on? So we get some more Massey and control quotes as she gets ready to do this. Her knuckle brushed up against one of the sharp points of the M pen that scraped her skin. She had forgotten it was in there. All of a sudden, she flashed back to the humiliating moment when Darrington had ripped off his shorts and tossed it in the mud. The memory was enough to make her want to back out of the plant and hop on the next Aerodac Trails bus with Kirsten. But what if he was so mad at her he refused to go behind the cabin? What if Claire blocked the girls over and he was yelling at her? What if he really didn't like her anymore? How long would it take for her to get over him? Would she act as pathetic as Claire, or would she handle the heartbreak with dignity and grace? Massey shook the thought from her head, hoping she'd never be in that position to find out. She goes over to get Darrington. She leads him over for a little privacy. She's wondering where the Muck girls are, and as she's kind of burning time, things are kind of getting a little weird. Wonder what happened. Massey had no idea what she was going to say next. She thought explaining why she had been ignoring him. Okay, I guess I changed colors. why she had been ignoring him and considered apologizing for lying to the Muck girls about their kiss history, but nothing seemed appropriate. Darrington looked too adorable for a serious conversation. He was bobbing his head up and down to a mysterious beat that had been playing inside his head, and only stopped when he heard the boys laughing in the distance. Wonder what happened? Darrington's dirty blonde hair blew around his sparkling brown eyes. He looked like an anxious puppy that wanted to be let out to play. Was this the moment Claire had been talking about? Had it been because Mousy had no clue what to say next? You're gonna have your first kiss in 3, 2, 1, she told herself, and tilted her head to the right. What? Darrington asked. What? Mousy repeated, her head still cocked. You look confused. She lifted her head a little, realizing she might have tilted a little too far and given the wrong direction, just like... I have a very short neck, so... I'm not confused, she said softly. Au contraire. She lowered her eyelids until Darrington's face blurred, then slowly, ever so slow, she moved towards him. Mousy stuck her hand inside her coat pocket and squeezed her M-pin. The sharp points hurt as she dug into her palm, but the pain gave her something to focus on other than the pounding of her heart sweat. Mousy thought she heard Darrington giggle and opened her eyes, but his mouth was soft and relaxed, almost like he was asleep. As she got closer to his face, Mousy felt a warm tickle of his breath above her lip. She was in his airspace and milliseconds away from touchdown. Where was Claire? But girls or no girls, Mousy couldn't stop. She was in too deep to pull back now, and would be like asking someone to stop driving once they'd already jumped off the board. Diving once they'd already jumped off the board. Finally, their lips touched, and they pressed together. With every passing second, the pressure got stronger until Mousy's top teeth felt like they were being forced back into her skull, but she didn't mind because it felt better than kissing Deuce. At least Darrington didn't have whiskers. Mousy released her grip on her M-pen and slowly slid her hand out of her pocket. She placed them gently on Darrington's hips like they were slow dancing. He hooked his fingers through her belt loops and rocked back and forth to the beat of whatever was playing in his head. Where's Claire? She loves an audience. Mousy felt like her head was going to explode from the lack of oxygen, but she didn't know how much longer she could hold her breath. Hurry, Claire! Right when Mousy thought she was going to pass out, Darrington pulled away and gasped for air. Mousy searched his face for signs of extreme joy. She longed to see a loving glint in his eyes or a satisfied smile on his face, but all she saw was the back of his palm wiping the shiny Cinnabon gloss off his lips. Did I do it wrong? Was cinnamon flavor too strong? Would something in traditional mint have been better? It's all Claire's fault for teaching me to kiss on a stupid mouse. What was she supposed to do? Kiss her yourself? Gay. Darrington tells her that he loves her, and that's very weird. And then it's like, I don't think we should hang out anymore. I never paid attention to this. I got too stressed. And he's like, you're so moody. I like you a lot, love you, but you're so moody and mean. She explains that she just kind of doesn't like she's uncomfortable. The girls join. It's time. The girls see it, and Claire shuffles them off, being like, oh, acting, surprise. And they finally talk about their feelings and, how absolutely insane Mousy can come across when she's just like doesn't want to be around him because she's putting on a show for the girls. She explains that she just thinks that something should be private. And everything after that, everything's good in the neighborhood. As she confirms that she does like him and he likes her and they've shared their first kiss. He takes the M-pin back and then he gives her a little kiss. Good for her. Claire is off to find Cam. She's so excited. The closer she got, the more Claire was certain that they had picked the perfect spot. The log face lay placid and was lit by silver light of the moon as it reflected off the water's glassy surface. It was the best seat in the house. Claire, now only had a few feet away, was able to make out Cam's silhouette. She felt the urge to run again, but somehow managed to control herself. Cam's torso looked a little wider than usual, and Claire assumed he was hunched over, trying to stay warm. As she got closer, she heard his soft voice. She smiled. He was talking to himself. Knowing Cam, he was rehearsing a romantic poem he had written just for her. "I've been waiting to do this for so long," Claire heard a girl say. "You have?" Claire sounded surprised. "Uh-huh." The girl inched closer and slowly leaned in towards him. He made no effort to push her away. Every muscle in Claire's body tensed up except her heart. It pumped faster than it ever had before, like it was about to burst through her chest and pummel the slut bag who was moving in on her guy, and Claire was more than happy to step aside and let it. "Cam, stop! What are you doing?" "It's Alicia." Alicia, you know, she's playing checkers, not chess, besties. Checkers, not chess. Everyone gets into a big stupid argument over Josh, Cam, and first kisses all around. Alicia finally figures out that Josh likes Claire. Claire is just like, "I don't even like him that much," but she knew that Alicia was gonna get that first kiss off of Josh. Alicia is in fact the villain. They get into a big fight. "Alicia, I never would have kissed Josh if I thought if I thought you still liked him. You told me at the game that you were over him." Claire could hear her voice trembling. "Besides, I don't even like him. I never did." "Well, I don't like Cam, but that doesn't make you feel any better, does it?" Alicia said. "Thanks a lot." Cam ran his hands through his wavy black hair and stepped away from Alicia. Claire was torn between wanting to comfort him and wanting to kick him in the neck. Kick him in the neck, bestie. "Why did you go along with this?" Claire shifted her anger to Cam. "Was this your way of getting revenge too? Because kissing Josh was a mistake? Okay, a mistake!" "I'm sorry, what else do I have to do to prove it?" Tears flooded Claire's blue eyes. She blinked them back, but they fell forward and spilled down her cheeks anyway. These teens cry so much. There's so much crying. "Me? Out for revenge?" Cam took a step towards Claire. "I thought you were out for revenge." "Me? Why?" "Because you never showed up tonight." Cam lowered his voice. He no longer sounded angry. It was worse than that. He sounded heartbroken. "What are you talking about?" "I gave a note to Alicia to give to you. I said I'd be late." No one said a word. It was suddenly very clear what had happened. Whomps! Alicia covered her mouth with the palm of her hand. "I must have forgotten to deliver it. My bad." She skipped towards the bushes and met up with Olivia, who had been crouching down, hiding behind a pine tree. The girls burst out laughing and speed walked towards the cabin because Alicia refused to run. I hate her. I truly hate her. But in a way, like, we love to hate her. Unless in, like, an actual hater, like I kind of do Lainey. So, Claire goes off to hide behind in the cabin. She's so sick of all of this. Claire goes to bed, feeling very sorry for herself. A few moments later, she opened her eyes and looked around. Okay, I'm actually just going to read my notes. I don't feel like reading the quotes. So, the same way she goes to bed, and when she gets woken up in the middle of the night by a girl, the same way Claire went to meet up with Cam. Cam comes dressed in as Camille, using a transphobic slur, like, why did you have to say that? Crossdresser was right there. But he shows up and explains his half of the story, and he's dressed in Massey's clothing. They get to share their first kiss, and then Cam runs off before he gets kicked off the soccer team. Next morning, Claire and Alicia are fighting, as they refuse to talk to one another. Claire is feeling very in her element and very competitive. Claire tells Massey that she kissed Cam last night. As Massey eats her eggs Benedict all fancy-like, Dylan is bummed that everyone else is getting action. Dylan is pissed because Pulvert likes Olivia. They're all eating breakfast on the last morning when Mr. Dingle comes over and he's like, "I found these hanging in a tree behind the girl's cabin. It's underwear. They are technically Claire's, but she knows the two possibilities of who it actually is." It could either be Lainey's or Alicia's. Claire knows it's Lainey because Lainey's been leaving underwear around. But Claire decides that, you know what, if everyone else is going to play dirty, I'm going to play even dirtier. So she says that they're Alicia's. All the girls back up her story. Now that she has kissed, what's-his-face, Massey has her appetite back, which, good for her. All this not eating couldn't possibly have been good for her brain. Claire, isn't this your underwear? Alexandra shouted from the other girls' table. You have like 10 pairs of those. She's right, Carrie said. She's the only one who wears full panties. We all wear thongs. The boys cracked up and started punching Cam. He turned bright red and whacked them back. Claire hunched over and rubbed her forehead. Massey glared at Lainey and slightly threatening her to speak up or else. I know who did it, Lainey offered smoothly. Softly, louder, Massey said through her teeth. Claire looked at Lainey with a worried look on her face. She obviously didn't want her friend going down like this. Lainey already took enough heat for her crazy outfits and disgusting food obsessions. If everyone found out she had hidden dirty underwear in a tree, she'd never recover. It would be the final nail in her social coffin. I know who did it. Claire jumped to her feet. The room was silent. Massey's heart was pounding. She couldn't bring herself to look at Claire, even though she was dying to see what would happen next. They're hers! Pointed at Alicia. What? Alicia screeched and slapped her hand against her chest. Alicia, is this true? No, Alicia insisted. Her cheeks turned bright red, the color of Claire's grape juice. Of course not. Because if you're lying, everyone in this room is looking at a 6-mile hike. And it's true, Livy piped up. I saw Claire lend her a pair when we got here. I saw it too. Me too, Lainey shouted when no one was looking. She mouthed, thank you, Claire. Ew, why would I ever borrow Claire's underwear? I think I can afford my own. You borrowed it, remember? Olivia was obviously trying to be helpful. It was the day we got here. We were unpacking and Claire gave you... Alicia elbows Olivia in the chest. So, with all the teasing that can happen, Alicia gets teased a lot for her body, so this feels a little gross to me. All of it feels gross. Everything's gross all the time. But Alicia leaves the room. Dylan falls behind to give Kirsten some food, and Massey follows to beat. And Claire follows behind because she feels bad. Massey doesn't want to be left alone without her friends, so she leaves. And now Massey has a new nickname for Lane. Lane the Stain. Massey felt the weight of sadness inside her body when she realized it was the last day at the Forever Wild campsite. It had turned out to be one of the best weeks ever. For her. We really don't ever get to hear about any of the good stuff that happened. We just hear a lot of conflicts. So they come in, they're all standing around Mary Lee and Mr. Minor cuddling. Dylan is there. Dylan's like, oh my god, how could you do this? But she's like, why are you here? She's like, to bring Kirsten some food. Kirsten's here? Yeah, she's here. Everyone's arguing as Dylan comes in. Mr. Minor's campsite where he snuggled up with Mary Lee. They're all in on Dylan so she can be taken out by her mother flirting with the teacher. Kirsten is found, which is weird. I don't know. It all kind of happens too quickly. Mr. Minor is like, oh my god, Kirsten's here. She should not be here. Y'all are going to be expelled because you were definitely not supposed to be here. Everyone bolts. It's very stupid. I think this book has the stupidest, quickest ending. Everything comes together too quickly in a way that doesn't make any sense. Everyone bolts. All the girls go off onto this trail that they're not supposed to be on. They come across an animal with big beady eyes. They're like, oh no, it's a bear. It takes 5 seconds to identify that it is actually a deer. Claire scares off the deer with her gummy feet that Cam gave her after they made up. This saves the girls. Now they're all wandering around for like 5 hours running out of food. And they all decide they need to huddle up. Alicia accuses Claire of hoarding food, even though Claire saved their butts, but whatever. Then they remember that Massey's necklace has a that Massey's necklace has a compass on it. Before Massey gives Kirsten the compass to tell them how to get which way, she makes them all sit around in a circle and apologize to one another. Okay, so Alicia's just like, the memory of cuddling with Cam last night is keeping me warm. Claire felt her spine stiffen and stop moving. She just glared into Alicia's eyes, silently asking, "Did you just go there?" "It means you have a compass around your neck," Claire pointed out, the gold chain Massey had been tugging on all morning. "What?" Massey looked down. "Oh yeah." Claire wanted to remind everyone it was the third time she had saved them, but it was too late. The girls were already hugging Massey and jumping up and down, calling her their hero. Okay. She pushed them away. "Let's not break it." Massey pulled the necklace over her head and closed her palm around it. "Let me see." Kirsten was obviously anxious to see if she had been leading them in the right direction. "Not until everyone makes up." Massey held her closed fist behind her back. Everyone's smile quickly faded. "Go on now." Massey pointed her chin at Dylan. "Why don't you start?" "Why me?" "Because you're the one who ran out here in the first place." "Yeah, well, no one told you to follow me." "Fine, then I'll start." "I'm sorry I followed you out here." "I really am. Believe me." Everyone giggled. Even Dylan cracked a smile. "Dylan, I'm sorry I said that you didn't know which way was east. Was, Alicia offered. "I'm sure you do." "Forgiven." Dylan waved her hand away like it had been no big deal. "Now can we please check the compass?" "Not yet." Massey looked at Claire and Alicia. Alicia turned away. "Claire?" Massey folded her arms around her chest and tapped her foot impatiently. "Fine." Claire knew Massey was right, and it was time to end this feud. And she certainly had a lot to apologize for, so why not go first? At least if they died out here, she'd go with a clean conscience. "Alicia, I'm sorry I kissed Josh, but honestly I thought you were over him." "I only did it because I was upset about Cam liking Nina." "Why didn't you just tell me? I spent all week acting like a total loser beyond repair, trying to figure out who he liked. I guess I was scared you'd be mad," to meet Alicia's eyes, "or that you'd try to get back at me." "Please, that's so unlike me." Alicia batted her eyes with exaggerated innocence. Claire looked to the others, hoping for a little backup. Everyone looked away. "Is it really so unlike you to seek revenge?" There are 3 different books in which the plot is, and I'm pretty sure I would say that Clique Book 1 has Alicia executing the plan where Claire called them bitches. So they get into it. Alicia doesn't apologize because no one ever expects her to apologize, and they move on. Finally, they get the the compass, and we move on to what's going to happen next now that people can move forward. "Were you just trying to get us lost on purpose so you wouldn't have to go back?" Dylan asked. "I may be scared of my parents, but I'm more afraid of starving to death," Kirsten said. "Don't worry," Alicia assured them. "My father will fix all of this." "So will mine," Massey offered. "Mine too," Claire lied. "The only thing my father could do was cheer them up by doing a funny dance or singing with a mouthful of double-stuffed Oreos." "Great, then off we go." "Dylan, do you think your mom is looking for us?" "Those are deer tracks," Kirsten rolled her eyes. "People eat deer, you know." "I'd rather eat my arm than a cute little deer." The girls discuss which one of them they could eat in a situation. I think they decide that they would eat Massey because she's got a good little plump on her, but not too much. So as they're sitting around waiting, Massey's like, "They're not going to expel us. Our families are too important." Dylan's like, "They're totally not going to expel us because my mom is here." And Alicia has the most reasonable expectation, which is they're going to expel them, but they're going to have it reversed, like the uniforms, because her father is going to do this. Is going to, get into it. So Mr. Minor comes in and is like, "Oh, I'm so glad you guys are safe. It's a little concerning that it took y'all, 5 hours to get back from a literal like 30-minute trail, but whatever. You guys are super expelled. Your parents have been notified. Get on this bus. You're going home right now. Absolutely buck wild. Everyone kisses their prospective boyfriends and all that, and they've head off because they're expelled. Kirsten, bless her heart, she's traumatized. She has gone through so much stuff. It's like, this is very dumb. I don't know where they thought they were going, but this is dumb. Now that this book is done, I can say that I did not enjoy it. I think the first one I rated a 2 out of 5 stars on Goodreads, and this one as well. I don't even know, man. I can't even imagine getting expelled over this bullshit. So, I just want to say something embedded in me that I love a good bad boy switcheroo. I kind of like when the good girl Claire ends up with the bad boy Josh. So the fact that like Claire ends up being back with Cam and didn't really give Josh a good try. He seemed like he was a bad boy. He was willing to be, that she was the girl he was willing to be sweet to. You know, toxicity is bad in real life, but like in fantasy, when you're reading a book, you're just here for a good time, not a long time. I just want a little escapism. So that was the Pretty Committee Strikes Back, and most of the Pretty Committee wasn't in the book, and the Pretty Committee was mostly just dealing with boys. It's always boys. It's boy o'clock all the time, everywhere, and I'm sick of it. So dealing with that, I guess, this was kind of a dissatisfying ending because I hated the book so much, but we are leading directly into our next book. It is already packed up in my day bag. I'm going on a trip. June's book is Dial L for Losers. The Chocolate Compendium. There's nothing again, talking about like Y2K versus McBling, there is nothing millennials love, and you could see it in their home decor now, than this shade of brown. They fucking love this shade of brown. Kaboozu gabazu gaboo. They love, it's brown and mint. My cousin's house. My cousin is an older millennial, and she has a couch that are these colors plus mint. They love this color. Oh my god. Okay, so I can't pull up my thing. My little interstitial at the end will be from yesterday's filming session. But the pink and brown book, it's here. It's time for that. I'll see you next month for the next Clique book, and obviously I'll see you in the next week as we talk more about my scenes, secrets of my Hollywood life, and yeah, and whatever else I'm talking about. Bachelor content will return in July when Bachelor returns. So yeah. Alright guys. Bye guys. Bye guys. Bap, 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 bap. Me and Baby Arm. Are you following the script? Are you following the script? You can screenshot that, man.